when you first started, you
Yep.
lost the home, but you were still working for the mortgage company. At what point did you decide I'm starting my own thing?
It took years. I think that I had the dream, but I didn't know how. It was a lot of moments thinking about the gap in the money that others were receiving instead of me, and I was doing more than them all the time. I don't know if it was because I was a woman, because I was Latina, their way of them doing business, because they respect me. It was just the gapping, the missed opportunities about getting into a better position. They always flew by me. No, it wasn't a particular moment that I knew that I wanted to do it. I just did it. Gave the letter of resignation to my boss. And you know what he said? He's like, I knew you were going to do it.
Welcome to Mission Control. At Peralta Design, we launch brands. But for now, let's launch right into this episode.
3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome to this episode of Mission Control. This is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands. I'm very excited to have in studio someone we've been following, and they've been following us, right, on social, the one and only Sonia Alvelo, CEO of Latin Financial. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Hola a todos. A Spanish tip right there. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yes, so you have the business. Latin Financial has the funding.
Yes. Isn't that catchy, huh?
I like that.
Excellent. I can't wait to learn all about your story, your background, your services. I see you on social doing amazing things in the Latin community.
Oh, thank you. We have to get back, especially now, after COVID. We have to stay together and just, do what we do best.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about some logo updates in the news. In our banter section here, we've got Lamborghini. Would have gone under the radar had you pointed it out to me, but apparently after 20 years they've redesigned their logo.
It's interesting in that I noted it as there's all these companies that are doing this debranding, right?
Yeah,
it's become a trend.
definitely.
And they're taking a lot of the detail out to streamline things, which is, a positive and negative. I do think I think it looks good.
It's cleaner.
Right.
It was, 20 years ago, everything was beveled,
Embossed.
and shadowed.
Right, exactly, the whole nine.
In 3D. And so the old bull, I didn't even realize it had all kind of bevels and shadows in it. And now it's just flat, clean. It's still the big bull in the middle.
I wonder if that's also something of a cost savings.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about having to produce that bull in 3D as a badge on the car, on the key fobs, and how much does it shave off every single car you put out to make it just be that much
and of
cleaner?
course you got to love it. The Italian automaker has unveiled, right? This is from their press release, that their flat, simplified logo is part of a broader transformation process aimed at sustainability and decarbonization.
Right? How do you?
By taking the bevels out, we're done.
It's just like
we're green.
It's funny. It's just like with Apple and how they were like, you know what? We're going to take the charging brick out of the box because we're trying to save the planet. Now you guys are trying to save a buck. Are you kidding me?
And then they've the font apparently. I mean, it's just slightly thinner, but that's also chalked up to them going greener and sustainable and all of that. But it's a restyling. I think it's just cleaner. And to Jorge's point, I talk about it often in workshops. The debranding, simplifying it. Make sure your logo is going to look good when it's embroidered, when it's silkscreen, when it's in digital. When it's in one color. Simple scale, simple's better.
It makes me wonder if there's going to be some sort of push to get more gear out there. And I do see a good chunk of, we've mentioned it before, how we see Ferrari gear out there.
Yeah.
Also a much simpler logo,
Definitely.
with the prancing horse. So now I wonder if that's going to kind of follow suit.
It's definitely easier to reproduce. In fact, their old one looks a lot like the Wall Street bull.
Right, exactly.
It's like this big, almost 3D statue type of a bronze look, and now it's much cleaner. Disney, you mentioned. I know everybody that doesn't know, Disney Plus and Hulu kind of share passwords. It's kind of the same platform. So they've rebranded in a sense and merged their colors.
Yeah, so I noticed it the other day, and then I saw somebody post on it that Disney Plus has now worked in Hulu inside of their offerings.
Yeah.
So their color now changed, where Disney had this very bright blue and Hulu had their green, and now the color is like a blue-green aquamarine kind of a color in the background when you start the app up. And then, of course, as someone who has a young child, Disney Plus plays pretty prominently. Kevin and I were just talking about how we were trying to streamline
Don't let her
services.
accidentally watch Poor Things, because for some reason that's on Disney Plus.
I mean, they bought that whole. I mean, she has her own account that's like separate
That's
from
not
all the other
appropriate.
ones. Right? Exactly.
Totally.
The adult ones are password protected. So, but it's one of those things where she noticed instantly.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, isn't this looks cool now?" And
Wow.
they changed the animation when it boots up. So
Good on her.
Just a
And I
little
know
thing.
blue is also Latin Financial's brand color.
It is. It's going to stay like that forever. I thought about, making a little change here and there every 10 years. I like it the way it is.
No, blue it has a psychology of trust. It's
Yes.
excellent to use for anything financial, because as we'll get into, it's all about trust.
Exactly.
Where you put your money and where do you get your money, where do you invest or borrow? It's all based on trust. Real quickly though, UCONN, both teams, men and women, are in the Final Four. So by the time this airs, we probably will know
who the champion
is.
But it's exciting. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
a while since both programs were at this level. As someone who grew up a UConn fan, and now, with my oldest at UConn, I'm even more about it. So it's just great to see it happen. Yeah. But also great to see women's basketball take off. And it's amazing seeing Caitlin Clark has become this incredible sensation.
I know. I saw something really mean. They've been mean to her on social. I don't want to get into it too hard, but somebody said she looked like Eli Manning.
No way.
So
Come on,
so
guys.
anybody that
That's
looks
terrible.
has that face is good at sports or something like that. They're just,
you can't.
people are so mean.
Nobody
on
can
social.
have that moment in the sun, and
Yeah.
then nobody. It'll be left alone. It's just kind of part of what comes with it.
I forgot who said it, but they said when she was an underdog, everyone was rooting for her. But once you're on top that long,
They try to knock you down.
you gotta hate. Yeah,
But that happens to everyone.
Right. And people love to do it.
Yeah.
It's like we lift you up and then we can't wait to knock you down.
Right. So I'm excited to see where this turns out. But I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Where
She's a beast.
the last Iowa game beat out last year's NBA Finals. It beat out the World Series. I mean, you had over 12 million viewers. When you get those audiences together, right? It's kind of showed the same thing with Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl, the most viewed Super Bowl in history.
Right.
You can't deny that when you get that kind of talent together, everyone shows up.
Yeah,
So
that brand, the branding. And speaking of branding, if you've been living under a rock, you don't know that Beyonce, the Beehive, released a country album. And I thought there was a branding lesson in there because she remade Jolene, which was made popular by Dolly Parton. And in her album, Dolly's on it, and I feel like, Dolly is still like her
Still an
brand,
icon, for
an
sure.
icon in country music. And now you have somebody like Beyonce who's bringing new fans to country, kind of needed that validation. As much as she's her own brand and icon, you're kind of stepping into a different genre. And a lot of interesting things are happening there. We have some friends, J.R. Bird and James Walker, shout out to them, that are in the music industry, because Beyonce rewrote some of the lyrics to Jolene in the beginning. Something like, I'm not going to sing it, so don't worry.
We were waiting for
Right,
it.
I was
We'll be
about
spared,
to.
yeah.
I was about to try, but so there'll be some issues there that are going to come up with, royalties and things like that. Because even when you start writing lyrics or changing lyrics, now the division is going to matter. But interesting there that there's a whole new wave of folks that are all of a sudden listening to country music that weren't before.
It's kind of incredible. I'll raise my hand and say I'm one of those folks who got turned on to country, just right after the pandemic started to die down, and started to just, kind of get put onto it. And I was on a long road trip. And then before I knew it, there it was. And
Waylon Jennings and
I'm a little bit all over the place. Like there's more modern country that has kind of hip hop vibes.
And they start rapping all of a sudden.
Right, exactly. And then there's more like classic country. It's a lot more twangy, but I'm a fan of the whole thing. And I think socially you get pressured into music as a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember there was I had my 6th grade birthday party. I'll never forget. nobody came because nobody wanted to hang out with either of those groups of kids who were one type of music or another, one kind of culture or another. And I feel like country music was always on the outside. I would always say I'd listen to everything but country because I like to, my Spotify is literally every genre under the sun. And then I gave it a shot and I'm like, what have I been missing out on this whole time? But it also turns out it's something to do with the data too, because all the labels have basically realized this whole section of the country that forever were just buying albums and they really didn't have any other technology. We've gotten to the point, not that they didn't have the technology, but that let's say our streaming service on the East Coast is a lot more robust than the middle of the country, for example. A lot of rural areas don't have as much of an infrastructure. Now that those infrastructures are starting to get built, all those folks are starting to get Apple Music and Spotify, and now it's a whole part of the country that's like, well, that's the biggest consumers of music and of country music. So if you're not putting any music out to that audience, you're missing out big time on the opportunity for growth. So while I do like that it's expanding the horizons of folks, it is an additional thing of, it's also a business decision, let's be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of business decisions and demographics, a Hispanic population and serving them, when we come back, we're going to learn all about Latin Financial. So stay tuned.
Yay!
All right, well, this episode here is brought to you by the Connecticut Small Business Boost Fund. It gives small business owners access to flexible funding for capital expenditures and working capital and connects them with support services. Small businesses and nonprofits can borrow between $5,000 and $500,000 depending on eligibility and need. And you can spend how you spend the money. It could be equipment, payroll, utilities, supplies, marketing, advertising, all that good stuff. And they're very low interest over a 60 to 72 month term. You can get more information and you can apply at ctsmallbusinessboostfund.org.
No, I got to say, thank you for the invitation. I've been following you since forever. I love what you do. You know what, to be honest with you, I was going to reach out to you no matter what and be one of your clients because this is amazing, everything that you're doing. And thank you for the team. Thank you. Gracias. And I have my support system, here, Kehlani from Bob's Babes and Brunch. She's going to kill me right now. I'm a little nervous.
Boss Babes and Brunch.
There you go.
There we go. Get her on the mic.
Yes. No, but thank you so much. This is, I've been watching other episodes and I can't wait to tell my story.
Yeah, absolutely. We're thrilled to have you here. I've been watching you develop as well, and I see you sponsoring events and you're very involved in the Latino community, doing great things.
We have to be, yeah.
So please share your story with us.
Oh my goodness, where do I start? What, to be honest with you, this is my first time sharing my story, like this, live, talking to, listeners and I'm sorry if I'm going to start crying anytime soon, but hey, this is it. No, but yeah. But no, I'm very proud to be, Latin Financial has opened so many doors for me. I started in the mortgage business back 28 years ago. And unfortunately, back then, don't get me wrong, I used to love mortgages. I do them now. But back then, I graduated, and I have to go back a little bit more if you really want to know, because I know if somebody's listening to this, it could help. So I come from Puerto Rico, born in Puerto Rico, and small, town in Puerto Rico who the name is Jayuya, right? We only had one payphone in there. So it was really interesting that if you receive a call from anybody in the U.S. or anybody else in Puerto Rico, the people, they used to scream the last names. Hey, Alvelo, hey. Well, it wasn't my last name, but it was my grandmother's. And they used to go and get me if it was for my family,
This
I
is
used
a
to
small
run.
town.
It was a small
It's a
for
very small
everybody, for everybody to be running to and screaming your last name.
Yeah.
And I used to run to the payphone, take the message, and go back to my grandmother's because I grew up with her. Beautiful, beautiful. Every single memory that I have from Puerto Rico is amazing. I cannot say that I had a bad childhood. Everything was limited, but everything was with love. So I love that part of my life. And I tell my kids, nowadays how beautiful it was before. So when I graduated, I remember I was 17. The only thing that I wanted to the fullest, it was coming to the U.S. It was like, oh my goodness, that's U.S. I can speak English and I can do this and I'm going to just make it.
What did you think it was like before you came here?
You know what? Nothing. Nothing. I swear. No matter what, I remember I came in to Connecticut. And back in the day, I don't know if you remember, it was only one flight from Puerto Rico to Connecticut, and it was late at night. It was like 11:30 at night. It was the only flight. So I came in, and I remember it was November or December back in the 90s, 89. And I came in without a jacket, only one book bag. Because
It was cold.
It was cold. You could have told me, it was cold in the U.S. I had no idea that it was that cold. But I came in, my auntie went to pick me up, and I was in Bristol, Connecticut, right? And the second week that I was here, I have to remember and have to give thanks to my auntie Nora. She passed away recently, but she was a workaholic. She went to school. She was working 2 jobs, had the 3 kids, and it was like, you can do it. You can do everything. It was amazing to see her as a Latina back in the day, looking the way she was. And for me, she had it all. And it was a small apartment, but for me, it was like, oh, freedom. And she took me to take ESL classes. I remember that it was, a week before. It was December. By February, my birthday is on Valentine's Day. I was taking ESL. I was taking the bus, and I was feeling freedom. It was like, I was observing, observing everything. I had no background in anything in my life because I just finished high school from Puerto Rico. So I met incredible people, taking the classes, talking in the bus. I remember in the area, in the neighborhood, I used to practice the English and Spanish, watch a lot of TV. And it was amazing. It was amazing. It was one of, a great experience for me. But I knew that I wanted to, have a job. I had to, in order to live here. And I remember that I started my first job. It was in not Dunkin' Donuts, I'm sorry, which I love Dunkin'. It was Burger King.
Okay.
Closing, which it was really, really bad. But I met a lot of people through that experience. Then I remember that I met a lot of friends through that restaurant. And I remember one friend told me, oh, they're looking for, in the banking industry, somebody who speaks Spanish. You only had to translate back then. And I took it. I went, really nice, well-dressed, practiced enough to say yes or no, whatever questions that they may have. And I landed the job. And I remember that back then it was $7.50 an hour. If you look back, holy cow. And
So
nothing,
you went from Burger King to the banking industry.
to the banking, right off to the banking.
Because for being bilingual, which is amazing.
Yes, they were looking. To be honest with you, still to this day, that's what they're looking for. Somebody who, the Spanish took me to a lot of different levels in my career, and personally and business. And I look back, and no matter what, I loved it. If you look back as a woman in business right now, I should be saying, oh, it was horrific because the way they treated me. No, I took an opportunity and I made it my own.
It's
and
all perspective.
yes.
How do you look at it?
Yeah. So I remember that, after that, a mortgage company hired me. Same, only Latina. I look around, no browns, no blacks, only me. And, I worked my ass off and, loved it, loved the money. I never knew, I knew after the fact, the gap in money that they were offering me versus everybody else. It took me years. I was working there for like probably 5 years. And I found out at the end how less
Between
I was
male
making.
and female, you think? Or
No, and with other females,
Right.
including.
Okay.
I was getting paid dramatically lower, but I was happy. That money, I think that I was always good investing my own money. And lucky me that in between those 5 years, I won the lotto in Connecticut.
What?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Hey.
Oh, yes.
Like the scratch off or
No,
the Powerball?
It,
or what?
Powerball, and it was
What?
a lot of money. A
What?
lot of money. So that literally changed my life.
Yeah.
That opened, obviously, a lot of opportunities. But, yeah, I was lucky
Did you
enough.
quit your job that day?
No, most of the people say, yes, did you quit your job right away? No, I did
You
not.
just acted normal.
I acted normal. I had it quiet. I had the money, saved up.
Did you have to get the big check on TV and all that?
No. This is a really good story. They asked me, I remember that you go, and back in the day, they only had the check every year for 20 years.
Okay.
Or you can
One
actually
lump sum.
on one lump sum. So I took the 20 years. I was
Okay,
like, no,
good for
let
you.
me
Smart.
have it every year. The money there, they take the taxes, and it was fun. I was pregnant too. I met the
So,
father of my kids.
Were you playing every day? And
No,
was this just
first time.
You won your very first time.
First time.
Wow.
This is crazy. And believe it
Was
or
it
not,
a quick pick or did you pick the
it was
numbers?
it was a quick pick.
Wow.
It was a quick pick. It's
I didn't look at the lucky numbers. That's amazing.
completely random.
Yeah, no. It changed my life. Listen, I love Connecticut for a lot of different reasons. It gave me the platform that it is Latin Financial, the friends and family, my kids, they are born here, the amazing friends, you take opportunity. I think, no matter what situation you go through, you have to make the best of it.
Right.
So, in order with that, I kept on working, kept on going to school. And
Business as usual, but
Business
also
as
I won-
Good for
But
you
I-
because
but also I won the lotto.
I think
That's
most
great.
lottery
Hey.
winners don't end up well. Like
Most
Yes,
lottery
that's
winners
statistics.
end
a
up
lot of
broke.
them
Yeah.
go
Right.
gamble. They gamble. They do drugs. They end
Yeah.
up worse than when they started.
Right.
Yeah,
But
no.
you were smart.
Yeah, no, we bought a home right away. It was good investments. We
Okay.
were young, but we knew what to do in life. We were happy with, living in an apartment or having a home. But it taught me a lot because obviously after that, being in the mortgage industry, and then everybody knows what happened when the market crashed down.
Oh yeah.
We lost the property. Regardless that we had money, it wasn't enough, So I ended up losing the property, but at the same time, I was still working in the mortgage industry. So that gave me a lot of other different opportunities.
So did that allow you to kind of see the writing on the wall?
Yes.
Because you were working?
Oh, yes. There was a lot of things that maybe because not only having the money, but buying a home, you don't know. You're signing away without reading.
Right.
And
Papers and pages and pages and
pages. Yeah,
Your hands
no,
cramping by the
it's
end of the
still
whole
the
thing.
same. But, unfortunately for us Latinos, I remember that, even though that I understood, I signed my life away and nobody was there to explain what I was signing. So I think that always stuck with me. And in the back of my head, I wasn't blaming them. I was blaming myself because I should have known what to sign or ask the right questions.
Right.
So I think, the same way of understanding is happening now. And I think that when I started with the company Latin Financial, it was because of that. I knew that I wanted to help the community, but I didn't know how. And even though that Latin Financial We started with businesses, a small pop-in shop, restaurants. I can remember, oh my goodness, my first client, it was from New York. Still client of this day, by the way.
Wow.
He repaired, cars, sell cars. And that's when I realized I had to say everything to him in Spanish, right? From the beginning, from the call, the original call, explain everything, explain the options, but the documents, they were all in English. So it was about trusting. So whatever I'm selling, the guy never met me. He was signing away his life for a loan that I said everything, all the conditions.
He's trusting that what's on that.
He's trusting me.
Because he's not reading what's on those papers.
No.
Signing.
But he's signing anyway. Yeah. So after that, obviously the company started to reach out more clients. He referred me clients. We grew. And I said we because it's a family-owned business. So no matter what, I worked really hard. And it took me like 3 years to get my lenders to do the contracts in Spanish. They have to sign the one in English, obviously.
Right.
But they have to sign the English version.
Right.
But at least they have that opportunity to have it in Spanish in their own language. So for me, it was a battle.
I think that's totally reasonable that you understand what you're signing.
Especially when it's something of that magnitude, right? Exactly.
Why would that take 3 years? But that's amazing.
Yeah.
That just gives you an indication of the system.
But I think I think that my loss of the property, the hard times, even though with money every year, it made me realize, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to help. That's your at least my community. And I was thinking small, Now we have social media. We have a lot of programs. We have a lot of, the state, federal, a lot of things that it could help business owners. It could help women in business, small minorities. But, still, back then, we didn't have anything like that. It was your word. Explaining to the client, this is how it is, this is how much you approve for, this is how much you're going to get. So I think my journey completely, personally and business-wise, I grown with Line Financial. I owe everything to my company because I fight the fight all the time with the lenders. I try to get better options, better terms, it's never going to be over because I have to explain, I have to fight with the lenders and look for options, no matter what. If it's for example, I had my first deal because, obviously after I kept on growing in the U.S., I wanted to actually bring those programs to Puerto Rico. And that was back in 2015. What I did, it seemed impossible. All the lenders, all the U.S. lending banks, they used to tell me, no, it's impossible. That's a risk. They don't run the business like we do in the U.S. I was like, absolutely not. We do the same. Remember, I came to the U.S. when I was 17. I had no idea if they run the business like we do. But I was like, I'm so invested in my people in Puerto Rico that I had to make it happen. So it took me like a year and a half, but I made it happen. It was a pharmacy. Now we have over 98 pharmacies in Puerto Rico. We are, in the board with the Association of Pharmacies in Puerto Rico, not only with the gas stations, with the restaurants. And I'm not enjoying everything in Puerto Rico, obviously, in the whole U.S. It's a responsibility that my company has, not only in paper, but also in branding, yeah.
So you're helping to fund or provide capital to these companies in Puerto Rico? Yes.
And I got to say, from mortgages, obviously, the opportunity about, business loans and access to capital, it came into my lap and I had to take it. So that's basically what I started, and I'm getting emotional because, even if I'm talking and speaking to you guys, about my story, it was hard. Looking back, that is, everybody in the lending industry, I remember going to the banking conventions, and they used to say, hey, who you work for? Can you take a note for, who you're working for? And I'm like, looking back, I work for me, like financial. So it's kind of crazy because, forward 5, 6, 7 years, a couple of years ago, I was the first Latina who actually spoke in those conventions back to back, in the one in New York and in Miami. And it was nerve-wracking, but I was ready for it. I had so many things to say that I said it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Built different. Now, when you first started, you lost a home, but you were still working for the mortgage company.
Yes.
At what point did you decide, I'm starting my own thing?
It took years. Even though that I think that I had the dream, but I didn't know how.
Was there a particular moment that was this is the sign, or was it more just a blind leap of faith?
No, it was a lot of moments. Thinking about the gap in the money that others were receiving instead of me. And I was doing more than them all the time. It wasn't about because I don't know if it was because I was a woman. I don't know if it was because I was Latina. I don't know if it was, their way of them doing business, because they respect me. In no moment, shape, or form throughout my years, I never had a bad experience as a bad boss. It was just the gapping, the missed opportunities, the opportunities about getting into a better position, and they always flew by me. Knowing, and I was ready. Sometimes I used to go home and I used to say, I'm going to get that position. I know, and I believed myself that I was going to get it. Unfortunately, I never did. So, but no, it wasn't a particular moment that I knew that I wanted to do it. I just did it. One day I was just working. I had probably like $300 in my account. And I gave the letter of resignation to my boss. And I was like, I can't. And you know what he said? He's like, I knew you were going to do it.
Wow.
He's still one of my best friends right now. He is no longer in the industry. But he knew, but he never told me. So I went ahead. I went to the state of Connecticut. I opened, the name of Latin Financial. I asked a lot of questions. I had no idea what I was doing.
And where did that come from, Latin Financial?
That's a long story. So that's kind of crazy. I never said that before. No, I came up with I had a notebook and it was a bunch of names. I knew that I wanted something Latino in it, but I couldn't pinpoint it. A lot of names came out of it, let me tell you. A lot of good names.
So you had a lot of contenders that were
Latin
almost
cash funding, Latin, oh my goodness, I can't even remember. But a lot of names came out, and Latin Financial stuck.
It's got a good ring to it.
And you know what? No, the crazy thing is you are in the state of Connecticut waiting in line, a bunch of people behind you, and you have to decide what is your name in a matter of minutes. I was like, what the hell am I going to do? And Latin Financial stuck. So I remember after that, I literally went with my broken down car to the bank. I opened a business account because obviously that's what I saw through my underwriting years of experience. And I started from there. I remember after that, it took me like 4 days, and I closed my first deal right away, like $5,000, and I kept on going from my living room.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so over the years, you've expanded from mortgages to business funding, because it
was a big leap.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yes. No, I was doing mortgages for half of my life when I came to the U.S. and I love it. I love it. It was something that I actually have fun making sure that those approvals were there, and especially for the Latinos families. That's, for me, it was amazing, the amazing feeling. But doing mortgages at the same time, I used to work with this amazing company named Imperial Mortgage. The owner recently passed away, Mr. Freeman. I owe him everything. He gave me a huge opportunity. And from there, I passed to one other company because obviously he was getting sick. And this opportunity had other options, other programs for the business owners. And I got stuck doing underwriting for the businesses instead of the mortgages because there were not a lot of mortgages done at that time. And I remember having those conversations because underwriting, you have to talk a lot with a lot of underwriting, so the lenders and everything else. And they keep saying to me, Sonia, you got to start your own company, because I was always translating. It was always about the gap in the Spanish community. And that's what it got me. I just knew. But then again, we're talking about like it was the next day. No, it took me years.
Right.
This is not something that you can believe it, but nobody's there to tell you, hey, patting in the back, hey, you can do it. You got to do this. There was nobody like me doing what I was doing back in the day. So.
And you're changing lives. And in this community, we discussed a little bit earlier how there's this lack of trust with financial institutions for whether it's income verification or documentation, but they have the work ethic. These are families. They need homes. These are businesses. They need to expand. Yeah. And maybe it's a language barrier, but now you're choosing to work with this population. Yeah, no, it's a lot of misunderstandings in terms about the right information. They don't trust traditional lending, traditional banks, because automatically a business owner can be running the business, and we spoke a couple of minutes about it. They can be running a business for 20 years, but they don't know, they don't, believe it or not, they don't have a business account. They've been running the business and putting the money in, under the mattress like Latinos do, and they tend to do. But it's so much than that. When I started the company, I thought, okay, we're going to help business owners, establish business owners in Connecticut and U.S. to get the capital that they need. I never in my whole life can understand. I had no idea that my job was more than that. This company was more than that. It's not only helping them with the process. It's my responsibility that, if I have an approval, let's say that it's a bakery. Hey, Sonia, I need $20,000, just to buy the equipment or whatever it is. Sometimes, and it's my responsibility, letting them know this is the documents that you need. This is, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Because it's my responsibility letting them know if they get declined, okay, this is why you got declined, because they need to know. Right. They need to know why was the reason about that declining. So my responsibility is to let them know, recoup, do whatever we have to do. Like, most of the declines is for insufficiency. What is insufficient? They usually write checks and they don't have enough money in the bank, so they come back. Okay? So my job, if they have more than 15 per month, let's neutralize that. Let's make sure that you have at least 6. Well, make sure that they don't have none at all. Right. But let's reduce the risk. Right. And that's what we do. And then we can preparing them. So that might take, what would it take for them 30, 60 days. Right. It's not bad. But most of the clients, it's not only taking an application and the documents, but it's also letting them know that you're going to be there. It's okay to get the client, but now we know what is the problem. Let's fix it and let's try again. Yeah. So I mean, you're a real superhero. Tell me a case study of maybe one of your most proudest success stories of someone you helped. There's so many. I'm sorry. Pick one. Okay. Let me see. Pharmacy. Okay. This pharmacy owner, I like him a lot. They came in. They needed, back in the day, they needed $100,000. Okay, I saw the statements. Pharmacies, they get, deposit a lot. Yeah, $350,000, $400,000, and more, obviously. But him in particularly, he was like, "Oh, I heard about you. You're helping other pharmacies. They gave me your number." I saw the statements, and automatically I was like, "Oh, piece of cake." For some reason, he got declined, right, in all of my lenders.
So I was like, okay. So I had to let him know. He's like, Guillermo, I have to say the name, but now I can't say the name of the business. So I was like, Guillermo, hey, listen, you got the client. I'm sorry. We're going to have to retry in 30 days. It was bumped, but it wasn't something that, he knew what to do. So in those 30 days, obviously I worked with him closely. We used to text. My clients, they all have my cell phone. All of them. So now I got 3 cell phones. So because it's a lot easier. But anyway, so he came back 30 days later. I was like, okay, send me the new statement. Let me see it. It was better. He got the client again. I was like, okay, this is going to be hard. I even thought about, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to help him myself, because, in Puerto Rico, all the U.S. now, Latin Financial can actually give them, the loan as a white label. So that's a huge thing for us. So I was like, oh, holy cow, let me see, how can I help him? So another decline. So I was like, we got it just a little bit more. The third time, 3 months passed. He got faith in me, but so do I with them. So I remember he sent me the statement. We submit the loan. Guess what? We got an approval. No, but the approval, it was only for $10,000. So I saw it, and I remember I was shopping, and I'm checking my phone, and I was like, holy cow, I got to call Guillermo. I was so happy because he got an approval. Even though the approval was super, super low, I called them. We both started crying over the phone. I was like, oh, my God. Because it's not about the amount at that point. It was the opportunity to get an approval and make the payment sometimes so he can actually have that history.
And build credit.
Correct. Yeah. So passed by, that was in 2016, 17. Now he has 3 pharmacies in Puerto Rico. Wow. And he's a loyal client of Latin Financial. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the amount of the money. Now literally before I came in, I have another case. She owns a daycare, and you think a daycare is it's a small shop? No, it's with the state. The state paid them, so obviously the money is secure. She opened a spa. Right now, her approvals are under $350,000. $150,000 she took right now, and she's gonna have the money by this afternoon.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I love it that they come back and they can be themselves. Sonia, I need this, by a text. Now, because of the clients that I have, they feel so secure. They trust the company. They trust me. But the only bad thing is they don't want to do any business with anybody else in my company except me. So I don't know if that's good or bad.
No, you got to clone yourself, and because how have you grown? How many employees do you have now?
Right now, our office, because I own 2 different companies, is Latin Financial for the Spanish speaking, and then Sharp Capital for anybody else. So we used to have 9 in Puerto Rico. Obviously, in every single state, we got sales reps.
Okay.
We used to have an office in Puerto Rico, but unfortunately, I have to open that office again after COVID. Mm-hmm. We have to, obviously work from home, but we got a lot of reps in each state. Florida is amazing. California, New York, Texas is really good. Amazing state, right. For Latin Financial. Canada, now we are funding Canada in the past 2 years. Amazing. So we are growing.
International. That's incredible.
Yes, baby.
Oh.
Hey. You know what? The only thing that I always wanted to do business in Dominican Republic, the money's different. So, I'm still trying to manage in South America. But it's difficult. It's difficult. Licensing is difficult. And the change of moneda, como uno dice, dinero. So,
currency, the exchange.
Currency, yeah.
There's big opportunity in Guyana because we have a client there now, a bank, but they've discovered oil there. More oil than there is in the Middle East.
So now is the time to invest
Guyana,
there.
Yeah, down there near Brazil and Venezuela. But Guyana seems to be the place that's developing. That's going to be big
I keep
time.
hearing more and more, but so maybe you can introduce me to the to the area. Yeah,
exactly. So no, this is great. Now, tell us a bit about how folks can learn more about you and where they can find you and contact you. You don't have to give the 3 cell phone numbers away.
No. No. We are so happy. Our website is in English and also in Spanish. They can actually go to www.latinfinancial.biz and, Instagram, Latin Financial LLC. We are everywhere. We are a community-based company, so we love what we're doing.
Where's headquarters?
Headquarters is in Wethersfield, Connecticut. We've been there for 2 years, close. Before that, we were in Newington, Connecticut for like 7 years. And before that, we were in downtown Hartford. Awesome. I wish I can go back to downtown, let me tell you.
Yeah. So any speaking engagements coming up?
Oh, my goodness. We are everywhere. Let me see. The next one, we are going to be in Junta Boricua, which is in Puerto Rico on May 18th. I'm proud to be the first ambassador in Connecticut. In the U.S., I was the first ambassador for that. For all of you, Junta Boricua is the initiative to go back to the island because it's going to be the first Puerto Rican parade, which I'm super proud to be involved in that. We have over 25 ambassadors. She's one of the ambassadors over here. Close ambassadors, obviously, Keilani and Nessie. We are the fantastic trio, like you can say. But no. You go to any social media and type Latin Financial, and we are there.
Excellent. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
You're so needed in the community, and you're a real superhero.
I love that. So do you. And thank you so much. I know that, I jump, stories and everything else, but it feels great. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You did wonderful.
Thank you.
All right.
Gracias.
Yes. Thank you for being on the show. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is your host, Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands.